6, Lesson 3, the percent proportion. Our essential question for this lesson is how can you use models to estimate percent questions? Our model in this case is going to be a proportion. Here's our key idea. The percent proportion. You can represent A is P% of W with the proportion A divided by W equals P over 100, where A is part of the whole, which is W, and P% or P over 100 is the percent. We're going to try to make this maybe a little simpler. We like to use a little bit different proportion for this, but it's the same thing. What we like to use is this. P will stand for the part. W will stand for the whole amount. And then percent will just stand for the percent. So we're going to rewrite this proportion as this. The part over the whole, or the part out of the whole, is equal to the percent out of 100%. So the part out of the whole, is equal to the percent out of 100. So let's take a look at an example here. Finding a percent. What percent of 15 is 12? We have a couple of key words here that we want to look at. The word of, right here, and the word is. Is tells us the part of something. So when it says is 12, that means 12 is the part. It's part of something that's the whole. Of tells us the whole amount. So those are our key words that we're looking for. If we want to go back up here to this proportion, a lot of times we'll do this. We'll just say is on top and of is on the bottom, because is represents the part and of always represents the whole. So let's go back to this problem again. What percent of 15 is 12? So in the beginning here, they're asking us what percent. So that's what we're trying to find. So if we were to take a look at that proportion, we always had the percent over here. Percent out of 100. The percent is what we're looking for. Of 15. Of represents the whole amount. So on this side, the 15 goes in the bottom where the whole amount would go. Is represents 12. So the 12 would go up top where the part would be. So is tells us the part, of tells us the whole. So we get 12 over 15 is equal to some percent out of 100. And a lot of times what we'll do is this percent sign that's up here, since it's what we're looking for, what we'll do with that is we'll get rid of that percent and we can replace that with a variable, since it's what we're looking for. So 12 over 15 is equal to x over 100. And we can go ahead and do some cross multiplication on that and figure out what x is. So when I cross multiply, I'm going to get 15x is equal to 12 times 100 is, 1,200. And then I can go ahead and solve this by dividing by 15 on both sides. And 15s will cancel out, and I'm left with x is equal to 1,200 divided by 15 is 80. So what does this 80 mean? Well, it said what percent of 15 is 12. So this 80, what we were looking for is the percentage. So we want to make sure we put a percent there. So 80% of 15 is 12. We could replace what percent with 80% of 15 is 12. All right, 12 is not the whole amount, so it's only 80% of the whole amount. That's what that means when we're figuring that out. All right, so that was finding a percent. When they asked us to find a percent. Example 2 is we're finding the part. We're finding some amount of something. All right, so let's take a look at this again. What number is 36% of 50? Again, what number? Since that's the question, that's generally going to be the variable there. So what number is 36%? You'll notice that what number is connected with is. What number and is telling us that's the part we're trying to find. So x is going to go in the position where the part would be. What number is 36%? 36% is always going to be the part out of 100. So the percent goes up in the top of that ratio, 36 over 100. And then the of is connected with the 50. So the 50 is going to be the whole amount down here. So some number out of 50 is worth 36%. That's what we're trying to figure out. Another thing I should mention, the is that's here, okay? It's also next to the 36%, but is never connected to 36%. It's never related to that. Is always related to the other side of the ratio, the part. So what number is connected with the is, so what number represents the part. All right, we can go ahead and do our cross multiplication to find out what x is. So we're going to get 100x is equal to 50 times 36, which we'll do on a calculator. And that is equal to 1,800. And we can go ahead and solve this. Divide both sides by 100. Those hundreds cancel out. And x is equal to 18. Now, what does that 18 mean? Well, we could take that 18 and plug it back in for what number, because that's what we're trying to find. So if I put 18 here, it means 18 is 36% of 50, or the number 18 is worth 36% of the whole amount, which was 50. And then finding the whole. So far we found the percent of something, we found the part of something. Now we're going to find the whole amount, all right? So let's take a look. 150% of what number is 24? So I see the percent right here. So automatically setting up my proportion, that 150% goes in the top of our one ratio, our percent ratio. Of what number? You'll see that of is connected to what number? Remember, of or is never connected to the percent. So of is connected to what number? So that means that's what we're looking for. So what number represents the whole amount this time, because it's connected with of, which means it goes in the denominator of our ratio. Is tells us the part, which is 24. So that goes up in the numerator. So we're trying to figure out what number is 24 worth 150% of? All right. Now, I will also say this. If the part is worth 150%, that means anything bigger than 100% is going to be larger than the whole amount. Anytime you see more than 100%, it means it's going to be larger than the whole amount. 100% is equal to the whole amount, and less than 100% would be less than the whole amount. But anytime you see the percentage as bigger than 100%, that means the thing we're looking for is bigger than the whole amount. All right, we're going to go ahead and cross multiply. And so we get 150x is equal to 24 times 100, which is 2,400. And then we can go ahead and divide both sides by 150. Those 150s cancel out, and x is equal to, I'm going to use the calculator, and that is equal to 16. So let's plug that back into our, plug this back into our problem. So here's the x. X was equal to 16. So let's reread this to see what this 16 means. 150% of 16 is 24. So in this case, the part, 24, is the part, and 16 is the whole amount. And you'll notice that the part is bigger than the whole. That's because the percent was bigger than 100%. So again, anytime your percent is bigger than 100, that means your part is going to be larger than the whole amount. And sometimes that's a little bit confusing to think that a part can be bigger than the whole amount. So if you have questions on that, if you're not sure why that is, ask me questions in class, and I'll be happy to go over another example to show you why that is. So we have some on your own problems here to do. So go ahead and pause the video, take care of these problems, and then restart the video when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, so hopefully you've taken care of those problems. So let's start with number one. What percent of 5 is 3? So the what percent that's the variable, the question. Of is connected to 5, all right, and is connected to 3. So of is the whole, is the part. So I can go ahead and do this. What percent means we're looking for the percent. So that's going to be the x in our percent ratio. And now I have the of the whole amount is 5, so that goes down the bottom. And the part amount is 3, so that's up top. So 3/5 is equal to x over 100. I can do cross multiplication, and I'm going to get 5x is equal to 300. Divide both sides by 5, and I'm going to get x is equal to 60. All right, so what percent of 5 is 3? 60% of 5 is 3. All right, I'm going to erase this one so I have room. 25, number 2, sorry. 25 is what percent of 20? 25 is connected with the is. They're asking for the percent. What percent? And of is giving us the whole amount, so 20 is the whole amount. So let's go ahead and set this up. So the part is 25 because that's what the is. The of is the whole, and that's 20. And that's equal to some percent. All right, some x over there. I can see that the top part is bigger than the whole. So my percent should be bigger than 100% because the part is bigger than the whole. So let's cross multiply. I'm going to get 20x is equal to 2,500. Divide both sides by 20. Again, you can use a calculator to do that. And we're going to end up with x is equal to 125. So you'll see that 25 is 125% of 20. So the part is bigger than the whole, so the percentage was bigger than 100%. Number 3, what number is 80% of 60? So again, x represents the thing we're looking for. What number is? So that's the part. So x is going to be in the numerator. 80% is going to be in our percent ratio. Of tells us the whole, so 60 goes in the denominator. We can go ahead and cross multiply, and we get 100x is equal to 4,800. Divide both sides by 100, and we're going to get x is equal to 48. So 48 is 80% of 60. Number 4, 10% of 40.5 is what number? All right, we got a percent. So, oops, not an x for percent. Sorry about that. We know what the percent is, so that's 10%. So 10 out of 100 is, of is connected to 40.5. So that tells us the whole, so 40.5 goes in the denominator. Is connected to what we're looking for, the x. So x represents the part. We can go ahead and cross multiply, and I'm going to get 100x is equal to 405. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 100. And I'm going to get x is equal to 4.05. So 10% of 40.5 is 4.05. Number 5, 0.1% of what number is 4? So they gave us a percentage. So I'm going to put that 0.1 over 100 in our percent ratio. Of is connected to what number? So we're going to be looking for the whole. Is connected to 4, so they're giving us the part. So 4, the part, goes in the numerator. The whole amount we're looking for, so that goes in the denominator. We can go ahead and cross multiply and get 0.1x is equal to 400. Divide both sides by 0.1. And we're going to get x is equal to, let's get out a calculator. And that is equal to 4,000. So what does this mean? That 0.1% of 4,000 is 4. And one more of these. 1/2 is 25% of what number? It's just a fraction, but that doesn't change the fact that we just put it where it's supposed to be in our proportion. Is connected to 1/2, so they're giving us the part. They give us the percent. Of is connected to what number, so they're asking us to find the whole amount. So 1/2 is the part, so 1/2 goes in the numerator. 25% is the percent, that goes in the percent ratio. And then what number is what we're looking for, and that's the whole. So we can go ahead and do our cross multiplication, and I get 25x is equal to 1/2 times 100, which is 50. Divide both sides by 25. And I get x is equal to 2. So 1/2 is 25% of 2. All right, again, if you have any questions on those, please make sure you ask in class, and we'll be happy to go over them with you. Excuse me. All right, a real-life application of doing a percent proportion. The bar graph shows the strengths of tornadoes that occurred in Alabama in 2011. What percent of the tornadoes were EF1s? All right, so if you can see this, hopefully, in this table, we have strengths of tornadoes listed down here in the along the x-axis, and it goes from EF0 all the way up through EF5. And they all have a number at the top, which I'm going to be honest with you is very difficult to tell what that number is, but we'll do our best. So we want to know what percent of the tornadoes were EF1s. So we're looking for the percent. So that means I'm going to need an x in the percent ratio. On the other side, I got to figure out the part and the whole. The part is going to represent the number of EFIs, or EF1s, I'm sorry, the number of EF1s, because EF1s is only part of all tornadoes. So I got to figure out how many EF1s there were. So if I go to the EF1 bar and I go all the way up to the top, that number is really difficult to see. So I'm going to assume that that number is 58. I could be wrong about that, but let's go with 58 on that because I can't really see it. And then I have to figure out the whole amount down here in the bottom has to be all tornadoes together. And that includes the EF1s, but also all the other ones. So we got to figure out what those numbers are, add them together, and put that in the denominator. So let's see what those numbers are. EF0s look like 36. We already said that the EF1s were 58. Looks like the EF2s are 29. Looks like the EF3s are 13. The EF4s look like 7, and the EF5s look like 2 to me. Again, I'm just trying to tell if that, by the graph here, it's kind of difficult to see. So hopefully I got the right numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and add those all up on my calculator to find out the total of all tornadoes. And if I add those all up, it looks like 145. So that's our whole, because all tornadoes added together is the whole. So now we can go ahead and cross multiply to figure out what percent of all tornadoes were the EF1s. So I end up with 145x equals 58 times 100 is 5,800. I can go ahead and divide both sides by 145. And we end up with x is equal to, let's use a calculator on this. And I get x is equal to 40. Okay? Now, since it asked for percent, it's 40%. So that means that the EF1s were 40% of all the tornadoes that happened in Alabama in 2011. Okay? There's an on your own question here. So go ahead and take care of this. Pause the video. When you get an answer, come back and you can check your solution. Okay. 20% of tornadoes occurred in central Alabama on April 27th. How many tornadoes does this represent? Okay, so they're saying 20% of the tornadoes. Well, let's see if I can do this. I'm sorry, my writing utensil is not working right, but all the tornadoes right here, that's the whole amount. So 20% of the whole amount occurred in Central Alabama on April 27th. They want to know how many that is. So that means that we're looking for the part. How many out of the whole amount is 20%? So we know that we have 20% is the percentage they've given us. So we'll put that in the percent ratio. The whole amount we just calculated was 145. What we're looking for is the amount out of 145 that is worth 20% of all of them. So that's what we're looking for, and we're going to put an X in the numerator for the part because we're looking for the part. So let's go ahead and cross multiply, and I'm going to get 100X is equal to 20 times 145, and that's equal to, oops, that's equal to 2,900. So we'll go ahead and divide by 100 on both sides so that we can find out X. And we're going to get X is worth 29. So 20% of all tornadoes happened on April 27th, and that 20% was worth 29. So there were 29 tornadoes on April 27th. Again, if you have any questions on this problem, make sure you ask when you come back to class. All right, and so we have a few problems here that we would like you to answer so that we can understand your understanding. So do these questions that are highlighted. Make sure you turn them into your teacher. If you have any questions or you had some difficulty with these problems, please make sure you ask when you come back to class.